In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
They said education is a great equalizer. But let me ask you something tonight. Who wrote that rule, and did they mean it for everybody? Because if you're being honest, we're being real. If we're being real, the way this country has historically treated Black children in classrooms, Black scholars in universities, Black educators in faculty meetings has never looked like equality. It has looked like gatekeeping. It has looked like underfunding. It has looked like telling our most brilliant minds that the resources they need are simply not available, that the seats at the table were already filled before they arrived. And yet, there's a lineage, a sacred, unbroken lineage of Black men and women who walked into those broken systems and refused to leave without changing them. From the one-room schoolhouses of the Reconstruction era to the sit-ins that desegregated universities to the HBCU classrooms that became sanctuaries of Black intellectual power, our people have always known what Frederick Douglass knew: once you learn, they cannot take it from you. Tonight on American Black and White, we sit down with a man who carries that lineage forward. A man who did not simply survive the education system, he mastered it, dissected it, rebuilt it, and then turned around to pour everything he knows back into the communities that need it most. We're talking about a scholar who holds a Doctor of Education from Liberty University, a Master of Science from Arkansas State University, and advanced certifications in instructional design from the University of Michigan and the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. A man who serves as a campus academic dean, a faculty development coach, a curriculum and assessment architect, and one of the most sought-after national presenters in education today. His work is not theoretical, it is transformational. He shows up at HBCUs, those sacred institutions that this country tried to starve of funding and relevance and the breaths, and he breathes life into them. He sits with first-generation college students, young people whose parents never set foot on a campus, and he teaches them not just what to learn, but how to learn. He calls it metacognition. We call it liberation through awareness. He has walked into faculty rooms and changed the way professors think about teaching. He has designed curricula that center the student, not just the standards. He has stood on stages across this country and spoken truth into the hearts of educators who needed to be reminded why they answered the call. Tonight, we get his story from beginning, from the foundation, from the people and places that shaped him into the force he is today. American Black and White, it's time. Welcome to the mic. Welcome to the movement. Welcome to the conversation that has been a long time coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Charles Zachary King, your host, and tonight your featured guest is the brilliant, the dedicated, the excellence embodied Dr. Shaquille Spearman.
Hey,
Welcome
how
to the
you?
show, Dr. Spearman.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am just excellent. I'm glad to have you here today, especially for this great conversation, because it's definitely long overdue. But is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
I just want everyone to keep an open mind. Let's talk about things we need to discuss, and let's shift the entire nation when it comes to education and pull these kids back out into the open and have their minds set on turning the social machinery wheel, as I like to call it.
Yes, sir. And I want to thank each and every individual that's tuned in right now, and for those that are always here in the beginning of all our shows. I want to thank you all for being here, and I hope you guys find this more than just enlightening. And I am once again saying to you all, any questions or concerns that you have, or any questions you'd like for Dr. Spearman, please put them in the chat, and we'll definitely get them on air. So, Dr. Spearman.
Mhm.
Take us back to the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what did your earliest relationship with education look like?
I'm from North Little Rock, Arkansas. So if anybody been to Arkansas, Little Rock is the capital. Um, Probably around 2 miles across the bridge. Not even that. You go to North Little Rock, Arkansas, around 60,000 populace. Growing up with education, man, it just wasn't there. The scenery, where we lived, the household, we we really pushed hard work, but education or going to extending your education outside of high school wasn't there. My mom didn't graduate high school. My dad didn't graduate high school. My brother didn't graduate high school. So this is what I saw growing up, and but they were hard workers. You know, so pursuing education wasn't something that I saw every day. I just went into a classroom, did what I had to do sometimes, and then went home. It wasn't a pursuit into higher learning.
So, in thinking about that, what was your thought processes as you were going through those moments? Because it seems like you were just going through the motion.
It was going through the motion. I didn't. I mean, I wasn't listening to teachers. Teachers didn't really ignite that fire on why we was there, why we needed to be there. There were a few, but it wasn't this well thought out plan and how we're going to get you there. It wasn't intentional at all. It was, I'm here because I'm here, and my mom needs to go to work, so it was essentially a large daycare. Um, how I felt growing up.
Um, so how did your identity as a black man in America shape the way you experienced school as a child or a young person?
I had no black male teachers, so I couldn't connect with anyone.
Hmm.
No,
Okay.
no black male educators in the classroom teaching us what it meant to be a student and what it meant to have meaningful academic conversation or be a part of academic conversation in general. Now, there were some black males on campus, but usually in a disciplinary capacity. So you wanted to avoid them as much as possible, which I failed to do a lot growing up. But a lot of those black male educators were in some type of disciplinary role, and I think I had one black male principal. His name was Mr. Turner, and it was just a disciplinary. It wasn't anything that sparked education or made me want to stay in my seat and continue to learn.
So tell us, so as you think about that today, and you put yourself back in that place in time, What was the importance of having a black educator as a young black boy going to school?
Um, there's intrinsic and extrinsic value there. I could see myself listening, understanding education a little bit more, someone that understood me, because I'm black first, and then so forth and so on with the credentials. But I just lost my identity. No one could tell me how to feel as a young black man going through those hallways, underserved, low income, no resources. So you couldn't tell me it was a way out if you didn't not only come from where I came from, but also if you weren't a male. It, as immature as it is at that time, that's how I thought. So representation is so important when these children, especially me in that age, throughout my educational journey, on how can I even be better than what I am now if there's no representation of who I am in front of me.
Wow, that is so rich. And from all of the black male educators that I've had on the show, you fall in line with some of the things that they say, because what I have also found is that from their experience to now being on that side of being that person that the kids could see, they're getting these extraordinary results where kids, especially the young black boys,
Oh
you
my God.
know
Oh
that
my God.
they're actually listening and enjoying class.
Oh my
And
God.
so as you think about it, I mean, like, and you just, and just as we're talking about this point here, as I just mentioned this, I mean, like, what do you have to say about that?
You know what? I don't know everyone's experience, but as a classroom teacher, when I was in a classroom, those were some of my higher performers. Those young black males, young black and brown males, honestly, um,
Mhm.
they came in ready to work, and I was surprised at first, and then as you kind of have that retrospect and that 2020 vision, well, hindsight 2020 vision, you start to understand like, okay, they see themselves in me
Mhm.
as much as I see myself in them. We always want to say, hey, I see myself in you. I want to do so much. But when they start to see themselves in you as the educator, they start to realize and believe in themselves, hey, I can do this. He did this. I can do this. And it's such a powerful thing because it's it's kind of a small fraternity almost when you go in and you see you see your black male uh, teacher, and he know the language. You're like, what's up, man? So what's up? So if I enter your domain, you have to enter mine, and that
Yes.
exchange is more often not is going to happen. That exchange is going to happen. You enter my world, I enter your world, and we know how to collaborate off of one another because they need to have a self belonging, some
Right.
efficacy in what they do and how they do it, and where else you're going to get it from somebody that looks like you, used to act like
Exactly.
and know your background. I'm never shy to show my background to these students because I understand where you came from. This is not me coming in and pretending to be someone I'm not. Uh, whatever you did, I did it 10 times worse. That's why I didn't want to get into education in the first place. I thought I was going to get it 30 times worse back. So, so it's important for you, especially us as black educators, to let them know, I'm from around the way too. So I'm not what they say. I'm not a square. So I know the game. I know what the struggles and everyday life. You around this X, Y, and Z, all these variables, but I still got to come in here and do the work. And when you shift their mindset, they start to work harder for you.
Were you always drawn to learning, or was there a moment, a teacher, a book, an experience that flipped the switch for you?
Mm, absolutely. I came to college off a whim. I played football. And I remember my senior year, my coach was saying, "Hey, are you going to take the ACT and go to college?" I said, "ACT? What is that?" This is my 12th grade year. So I said, "What is that?" So I took the ACT twice, and
Mhm.
I wasn't a good test taker. I was in intermediate courses, and one day I was in English class. I was coming downstairs, and a professor had their door open, and she spoke to me. When I got to college, I felt displaced, but she spoke to me. Her name is Dr. Sharice Jones Branch. She spoke to me, and I spoke back. I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" "I'm doing great. My main thing. I don't complain. I keep it pushing." And then she started to kind of bring me into her office and kind of talk to me about some of the things and how to navigate college. And I didn't understand what it meant, but I followed what she was saying, what she was putting down. Also, another gentleman named Dr. Lunny Williams, two great black educators, and I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution. So I felt misplaced. Everybody was coming from different backgrounds, and a lot of them wasn't parallel to mine, and so I had an identity crisis. I wanted to go back home, but they said no, no, you're gonna stay here. You're gonna navigate it the way you need to navigate it. And I started to understand the academic pursuit of more knowledge, more education, and how it opens doors for you. You simply knowing opens doors for you. That's the first step. And then you work so hard for those to know you, and then you can really go autopilot at that point when others know you and your work and know how well you do your work and what you're known for your work. And they taught me that. So I am very appreciative of those two. And there's a lot of other people around the way, but those are two prominent ones.
So, what did your community look like growing up, and how did that environment influence the person and the professional you've become?
The environment growing up,
Yes.
it was low income, man. A lot of gang banging, a lot of violence, a lot of misplacement, a lot of abuse. Not necessarily in the household, but I'm just talking about economically and socially. People think abuse is only the domestic inside the home. There's a lot of social abuse that comes along with that. It was a very wolf driven society. You had to have your chest out, you had to protect yourself, and you had to make sure that whatever smoke you was blowing, you can back it up. So now we wasn't the top, you know what I'm saying, but it was hard growing up because you had to
Yeah.
make a name for yourself, and education was not one of those facets, not one of those outlets where people were like, "Oh, that's amazing," you know. So it took a lot to pull myself out to meet the people I needed to meet in order to pursue where I am today.
Your mother, Michelle Spearman, is one of
Mhm.
the three most influential figures in your life.
Yes.
What did she pour into you that you still carry with you today?
I can do anything I want to as long as it's positive. She preached that from sun up to sundown. She said, as long as you do something positive, I don't care what you do. And it took a lot of stress off of me because, like I said prior, I played football. So in my mind, I had to make it to the NFL to make sure everyone was okay. I wanted to take care of everyone. And when I got to college and I got injured, and I was kind of weighing my options, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. At the time, I didn't know that was anxiety and stress, but it was a lot of anxiety and stress for me to turn away from the very thing that got me to college in the first place. And I had a conversation with my mom. I said, "Mom, I won't be able to take care of you in the next couple of years. And she said, and it was so powerful to me. And she probably was just talking just to talk, but she told me, she said, you can do anything you want as long as it's positive. So it opened a door in my mind that I did not need to surrender to anyone else's expectations but my own, and allowed me to be positive and do the positive things that I want to do in order to make my life my life. And that shifted my trajectory. It made me want to do more and do better.
So, if you could go back and speak to your younger self, the kid who was just beginning to figure out who he was, what would you say?
Honestly, I tell them, you keep doing what you're doing. Where you are now or where you're going to be in X amount of years, I promise you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy being on those stages and talking. You're going to enjoy making sure you're right. You're trying to pursue a certain place in education. Man, just keep doing what you're doing, because you're not going to get everything right, but you will be on the right path.
Let's transition over to your educational journey.
Oh my goodness.
Walk us through your academic path from undergrad studies all the way to your EDD from the University of Liberty. What
Mhm.
was that journey like?
It was crucial. It was crucial. So going into undergrad, I was underprepared. I was not ready for higher education. I was not ready for post secondary education. I was not ready to be on campus. I was not ready to be independent, going to classes on time and scheduled, and what I wanted to do. Um, my future self, or myself now, wanted to do at that moment. So I ended up in my undergrad, my bachelor's. I received a 2.99. Um, and I barely edged out the way. And I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to go into psychology. I wanted to do um, a therapy based something with counseling. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pursue my master's in counseling. So what happened was I needed some money. I needed some money. I needed some money, Mr. King. So I said, what am I going to do? So you know what? The easiest job you can do with a bachelor's degree is go substitute. So I started subbing. I started subbing. So when I started subbing, they said, what is your favorite subject? I said math. I was like, but I'm getting my master's in X, Y, and Z. They said, no, no, no. Your favorite subject is in math. Let me see if you're confident in math. So they had me teach a class in math, and it went great. So everyone was saying, hey, we're going to put you in math next year. That's what we're going to do. We're going to put you in math. And I am scared to write. I'm scared to write. So I'm like, man, I never taught math. That's like, so I entered a education preparation program, and I taught math my first year. I brought a class over. They were saying, oh, this was a difficult class. So I came in there, they used to call me Mr. Bull, because they was like I was fierce. I had expectations. They said, "Is this a college class?" I know it's eighth grade, but this is you're going to learn here. That class, that first year, um, I had a 98% passing rate. All of those students, 98% of them passed. It was one student that didn't pass, and I remember her name today, and I'm not going to display it. You already know, but it hurt my soul because she worked the hardest, and that's what shifted me. I said, I got to get those 2%. How can I get those 2%? And then that's when I started to go into learning science. I started going into curriculum and instruction. I started going into how to instruct, the different ways of instruction, opening of the minds. And then we had a conversation. The following year, we had a conversation. I was looking at my 2%, right? We know our 2%. We know our 10%. We know our 20%, right? So I was looking at the student. I was asking the student, I said, hey, what is going on? I know you know this material. Why are you getting it wrong? I was like, do you know? And I remember the word. It was ascending and descending. She said, I don't know what that means.
Oh, wow.
I said, that is from least to greatest, to greatest to least. And she said, oh, I know what that means. Bam. We found the barrier. Academic vocabulary. We found the barrier. Thought, thinking classrooms, academic driven classrooms, students that can be a part of the instruction only because they understand the academic language that's being provided to, from, via instructor. I cannot speak to you about a language that you don't understand the academic vocabulary in.
Right.
So it took me to a place where, hey, let's drive academic vocabulary. Let's drive metacognition. They need to reflect on their practices because the only way I learned what happened because we reflected on what her errors. Not because I kept teaching, not because I taught harder. It's because we reflected on her errors. And that's where metacognition comes into play. What you know. Do you know what you don't know? What do you know what you do know? That metacognitive knowledge. So it was a full on sprint from there.
Wow. So what drove you to pursue a Master of Science from Arkansas State University, and how did that experience shape your scholarly identity?
I thought I was a good writer until I got into my graduate program. Um, they tore my paper apart. I was devastated. I felt bad. I didn't know if I was smart or not. Because back in the day, during that time when I was in undergrad, and I tell people all the time, I was like, we was writing on paper. We was writing on paper and typing in the class, typing on computer. We didn't have no AI thought partners. We had to do it from the ground up, and I think that's a kind of like a small missing portion where the productive struggle is lost. But that master's degree showed me that you can never stop improving. You can never stop learning. You have to get better at writing. You have to get better in structuring sentences. You have to get better in speaking. I actually we did comps, masters in my master's degree. We did comps, and I failed my comps. I failed a portion of my comps, and it really drove me to where I needed to be better in displaying, understanding, and talking, and knowing how to hit certain talking points because I failed my comps, I had to do an oral presentation where they asked me questions, and when they asked me questions, I had to know the knowledge. So I needed to understand how to synthesize bodies of knowledge, and I didn't know how to do that at the time. So that was a great experience, and it helped me in my doctoral program where I think I had 1B. So it's funny because I tell people all the time. In my bachelor's, I had a 2.99, but in my doctoral degree, I had 1B, and those courses were much tougher, much tougher.
Mhm.
But I was prepared for it.
So, pursuing a doctoral degree is one of the most demanding intellectual and personal challenges a person can take on. What kept you going when it got hard?
Proper preparation. Proper preparation prevents poor performance every single day. Um, what and when I say proper preparation, I used to wake up at 3:45 in the morning every morning, and I worked 30 minutes a day. My capacity, because I was working at the time as well, my capacity gave me 30 minutes a day. Then 30 minutes turned to 45 minutes. Then 45 minutes turned into an hour. And then an hour turned into 2 hours. And when I
Mhm.
looked up, by the time I was going into getting my evidence, going to do all this research, I was halfway through with my paper.
Oh, wow.
So steps, because a lot of programs, whatever you choose or whatever you want to decide what you want to write about, or your dissertation or your capstone, whatever you decide to write about, you choose that topic in the beginning. You write on all of that material in the beginning. You don't sway away from that information. Because once you start to get into your courses where we're just going to work on your dissertation and capstone, you've already gained that knowledge throughout the program. So, and that's what Dr. Williams, Dr. Lenny Williams, and Dr. Branch, they always told me that. They said, now don't you go in there talking about you want to learn about you want to talk about or write on the neurological science of the as stupid as, just this huge title where you're not even interested in it, and it's just, it bogs you down because we got to read it on it every single day. So you better pick on some. You better pick something you like. So that, when you have people in your ear saying that, it gets easier. It gets easier. So mentorship was a big part of that pursuit, and it prepared me.
So, in your preparedness, I mean, is there a comparable difference? And I know that the degree area is higher as in your doctoral program, but can you tell us what was the difference in the preparation from graduate to post grad?
Um, I'll say this: the biggest difference is you can't slip through cracks in a doctoral program. You can't slip through cracks. You can't slip through cracks. It's a course or two in your graduate program where you like, okay, well, let's write this and let's do this and let's expand it 5 sentences by repeating about 3 things. Oh no, not in a doctoral journey. No, no. The paper comes back and you see it's 105 comments in there. I'm like, 105. You had it for about 3 weeks. So and they own every single part, every single portion. They say, why are you using this word? This word, I mean, you can use, because of what I found out, academic writing is just, it's not big words. It's concise, focal positioning of what you want to say, how you articulate it, and if it's backed by information. That's all it is.
Just conciseness, right?
Absolutely. I can, if I make a claim, can I
Right.
bring can I bring research to make this claim? Not necessarily correct. Can I make a strong claim by research? That's all it is. I come in there talking about, the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I'm like, they said, no, 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 you're not gonna do that here. You're not gonna do that here. So it was an eye opening experience. Like I said, you can't fall through the cracks in a doctoral program. And like I tell people, as much I am AI and centric as I would say AI is a great tool if you know how to use it as a thought partner. But I didn't use AI during that time when I was getting my doctorate. So it was through the muscle. I was talking with myself. You think you're going crazy in that room, man. You're like, huh? Like, you know, you had to be your own thought partner, man. At times, man. It was unique and it was fascinating. And like I said, as long as you're using that AI responsibly, I think you'll have a great thought partner. But when I was pursuing, I didn't have it. I didn't know much about it, honestly.
Wow. Um, so talk to us about Dr. Lonnie Williams, your mentor and professional inspiration. What did he see in you before you saw it in yourself?
He told me. I remember one time. He made me understand how intelligent I was and the potential I had. It was a 1909 scholarship, and he was saying, "Hey, you need to apply for that scholarship." And I said, I read the criteria, and I was like, and I told Dr. Lunny, I don't think I can get this. He tore into me. He tore into me like I was, and it was so professionally though, So he wasn't sitting there yelling. He was like, "Now, who told you that?" He made sure he made sure I knew that I was following him. We were not
Mhm.
peers.
Right.
Go apply. Watch what happens. I applied.
Wow.
I wrote my letter. I submitted my transcripts. 4 weeks later, I got the scholarship. I got the 1909 scholarship, and I go into this quote unquote, space where only a few people have earned this scholarship. You know, it's dozen hundred people in the history of the college, right? You got your little name on a plaque, you the 1909 recipient. And I asked myself, and I asked him as well, I said, well, you know, what did I do to deserve that? And he started listing the things that I was doing. I was a junior that year. He started listening to things, man, you was a chancellor ambassador. This is what you did here. This is what you did here. This is what you did here. So he made sure I understood that pre-work it's going to come to a point where you go to a space where you don't think you're qualified, but you already completed 5 years of it in that one application. That one application is just going to be a reflection of what you've been working on for so long. So he showed me the importance of groundwork.
Mhm.
You
Wow.
prior to the goal, the groundwork is essential. And if you don't look back and reflect on what you did or what you have completed or what you've done, you've lost some of what we call um, that that efficacy. Like, hey, I know I've done this. I know I can do better. That confidence in yourself because you've done the groundwork. So you always got to look behind sometimes and reflect on what you've accomplished. That's
Wow.
what.
So, as you think about that, and some of the students that you've actually run across, what do you do to help them of this self assurance? Because I know that is one of the things you've got to be most proud of for yourself. But just when you look back and you're giving back, how do you do that with your students?
Um, I let them know this. Whatever you know, it's because you've been around it enough. And whatever you don't know is because you haven't been around it enough. Whatever you want or you desire or what you think that's going to be a pursuit what that's worth pursuing, be around it enough. If you're in this classroom and you're not engaged, you'll never understand the art or the science of what this classroom means. And they say, how do I do that? And there's another bridge. So I teach them how to be better students because we have this as educators, we have this thing in our minds like you should have known this by the time you got to my class. No, I don't care what you know, I don't care what you do know. But what I know is that there's a bridge where it's my classroom, my context is going to help you in the next classroom. So let's follow there, regardless of where you came from or how high you scored on your last year's test. Regardless, let's let's break it down to the brackets and let's make sure that we understand what we're doing as students. How can you be a better student? How do you take notes? How do you think? How do you process structure academic reasoning? So I really invest in students to let them know it's not that you don't know. No one taught you how to figure it out.
Wow.
So in students, it's like, I know this. Of course you do. I taught you. I taught you how to grab information and dissect it and make changes when changes needed to be made. When they independently do that and reflect on it, their confidence goes through the roof.
Right. Dr. Sharice Branch is described as an academic role model and guiding force in your life.
Mhm.
How has her example shaped the kind of leader and scholar you aspire to be?
She made me a writer. She's a
Mm,
writer.
hmm
She's an amazing writer. And I don't give compliments like that. She's an amazing writer. Um, she has always, throughout my time wanting to be an author, writing position papers, writing research papers, I will send it to her. It'll be so much red marking on there. And she lets me know, hey, we got to do better than this. Well, this is what I see. She gives me so much constructive feedback that when I'm looking at my material now, I know where I'm going. I know how to write in a fluid in a fluid pace. I understand, oversaturating paragraphs. She has really taught me how to be a great writer. I'm still pursuing that greatness, but she has really placed an expectation on me to continue to rise as a writer. And I talk to her. I try to get into her planning time monthly so I can speak with her and talk to her. And she always give me little nuggets about, if you have a claim here, what's the backing? What's the research? What, your claim is too broad here. You need to make sure it's more focal. So she has always helped me understand writing and how to get better as a writer.
Oh wow. I'm gonna tell you this. As I was going through my educational journey, I will tell you that is the one thing. This is my right hand here. I have never, I promise you, I've never had that kind of support, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
from these great professionals. And and I always say for those that run across that's here on the show, and I'm always thinking to myself, "Oh my God, what my life possibly could have been like, had I had that kind of support with this same spirit today." Oh my God, that is like excellent. And you've got somebody that's in your corner. And see, this is what, when we talk about education, these are the things that our kids need
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
And so when I look at you, I'm sure that you're doing this for your students.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm doing this for every student that comes from the same background as me, same students that look like me or don't even look like me, but mostly look like me. I want them to look at me and say, if he can do it, I can do it. I love that. I love when students tell me that. I love when those black and brown young men say, hey, if you could do it, Dr. Spearman, I know I could do it. Absolutely. And I'll meet you at the top because the bottom is overcrowded. I tell them all I mean,
I like that.
the bottom is overcrowded, and and that's just the pursuit of excellence. Excellence. The pursuit of excellence is lonely. Those early mornings, or those late afternoons, or getting X amount of episodes on one of the trending, most upcoming coming podcasts. Mr. King, this is not nothing that is normal. I also applaud you too for bringing on such critical pieces in our environment that is contributing to education and giving them a platform to talk about what they want to talk about. This is not something that's done every day. We're still going through barriers. Yes, I have a doctorate degree, but that doesn't mean there's no barriers that I have to fight through. Now they better bring their research because I read. So I tell people all the time. I'm also want to throw this in the air that I appreciate you bringing me on.
So, was there a single pivotal academic moment, a course, a dissertation chapter, a conversation with a professor that fundamentally changed the direction of your career?
Yes. Um, I was I was preparing for defense, and I was nervous, and I told myself, "Man, I don't want to come back. I have to do. I just want to do it one time. I want to finish it. I don't want to come back." Mr. King, I got onto that Zoom, and I spoke like I, I the words were just flowing out my mouth.
Mhm.
That's how prepared I was. From understanding the research, from dedicating my time to being able to talk about things that I'm passionate about, everything it was in a flow state. I was able to speak so clearly, concisely, answer all questions that when I got off and they say, "Oh, congratulations, you passed, um, you successfully defended," I told myself, I need to stay in that state. Whatever that was, I didn't know what that was. I said, whatever that was at that moment where I became a lifelong learner, I need to stay in that state. So at this point, from then to now, I'm in the works of 3 books. I'm reading research every day. Somewhere I'm reading an article somewhere. And that flow state made me understand that when I speak about what I'm passionate about, it's never my own opinion. It's a research that I've gathered. So I'm just synthesizing what I'm reading. That's where the intelligence comes from. That's where I can be at the top of my game. I don't have to fumble over my words. I don't have to not make sense to others. And when I started to speak in a way where this is a highly intelligible young man, people purposely try to misunderstand me.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People sometimes purposely misunderstand you because they understand how intelligent you are. Yes. Intelligence is a
Wow.
threat. Intelligence is a threat. So when you're speaking in a way where it's backing research, it's backing thought, and it's backing theory and practice, people can't do anything but to consider what you're speaking about. And what's one thing that will debunk consideration from what you're speaking about? Confusion. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? You mean, yeah, you know what I mean. This has been doing it for the last 100 years. I read this like 3 weeks ago. Like I know exactly what I'm talking about. So then you start to get into spaces where you're actually combating those individuals that are trying to purposely misunderstand you so you can't elevate.
That sounds like that quote by Frederick Douglass. Education is something that they can't take away from you.
At all, at all, at all. So we can talk. So the thing is that people, I have a book coming out, right? And
Okay.
at this point, me personally, I'm looking for publishers, right? And it's so difficult because I am highlighting that Brown versus the Board of Education. Um,
Ooh,
um,
okay.
and we're talking about the black economics and what happened afterwards, the displacement of around 100 200,000 educators, um,
Mhm.
nearly a billion of funding just gone out of the community. And it was interesting to me, and I wanted to talk more on it. And I come to find out that now, watch it here, and we talk about um, systematically being intentional about what you're trying to do. Horseman, he tried to create public schools because they were building too many prisons, and too many of the white colonists, those that weren't rich, they were going to jail. So he was the last pillar to bring public education. So a lot of those poor white communities received education so they can be a part of the social machinery, and they can also be a part of the economic lift. They said public education was the key. Education in general was the key, and they wouldn't have to build that many prisons. So if this theorist, hundreds of years, about 100 years ago, 100 and something years ago, said education is the reason you can be a part of society, and it's a preventable measure for a student or a person to go into prison. Why is the prison of pipeline theory so thick in the black and brown communities? When you already know this theorist and this political activist, 100 and something years ago, told you that public education and sufficient education will is a preventable measure for them to not go to prison because they were building too many prisons for those communities to not go. Once you start reading and understanding and knowing this research, you start speaking a little differently. You start writing a little differently. You start understanding a little differently. And the intentions, you understand people's intentions when you read enough. So it's critical. People try to misunderstand you simply because they know your potential. They know your potential. Now,
So
this is the last thing I'm gonna say, and then we can continue. I think during my once I started to really pursue education and pursue knowledge, I've never been in a place where I've seen somebody my age or look like me as a male. When I really started pursuing what I wanted to pursue, I stopped seeing people that look like me.
well, you know what? Oh, we got some of us. Be able to talk a whole lot more about
Mhm.
that the next time we see you, because that's very very important. And I
Mhm.
can just imagine as you're saying that out loud. And I think for the folk that are out there listening, they should take heed to that because that's like what you put a pin in it. You put a pin in that. That's a keynote.
Yes, and you have to continue to pursue, and you got to
Yes.
continue to make sure that. Now, I wouldn't say that everyone is out to get you, but I will say this: it's really uncommon when you go into a lot of spaces and you're highly educated and you want to pursue something better. Everyone is not going to be with you, and everybody's not going to be against you. But that percentage, sometimes one outweighs the other.
I believe me. I believe
I
you.
already know you know.
Let's transition over to
Mm.
your work here with curriculum and your assessment mastery.
Okay.
Assessment is one of the most debated and often misused tools in education.
Mhm.
How do you define assessment literacy, and why does it matter so much?
Um, one of it's accountability. Assessment is accountability. Are the students learning, or the educators teaching? Assessment is accountability. What the glaring gap is, there are not enough classrooms teaching students how to test and be assessed. You want to assess them on content, but they can't even get part of reading the paragraph, or understanding what this test is asking me. So that's the first barrier. Before they even read the content and know whether or not they know how to compute, or whether or not they know how to synthesize certain materials, they need to know how to learn how to take a test. So that's assessment literacy, knowing how to approach assessments and being knowledgeable enough when you're being assessed what this assessment is asking you to do, or what is it measuring. Now, assessment literacy also can be a claim where this is an opportunity for educators to get better, and that's not always the pursuit. If I receive um, if I receive an assessment and only 45% of my students pass, I'm looking at the remaining and saying, what did I do wrong? What are they missing? Is it the assessment strategy? Is it content? Is it my instruction? Or is it the assessment in general? So that everyone doesn't have the capacity once they first enter a classroom to take a 10-question test, a 20-question test. A,
Yeah.
by the time the end of the year, you're taking a 42-question test. Where is the assessment fatigue come into play? Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about assessment endurance, building the assessment, starting out with 5 questions, then going to 7, then going to 9, then scaffolding, going to 10, going to 12, so we can build their assessment endurance. See, we don't talk about those things because those things aren't talked about enough. Why do each student get the same test throughout the entire year? Why tests aren't differentiated? So assessment literacy is much more than whether or not a student can take the test. It's the different components to make assessment a real measurable thing.
So when we talk about these tests being polarizing to black and brown students, that's either male or female,
Oh
and we
yeah.
talk about the difference in the structurality of these tests. When going back to what you just mentioned about how the testing is done, but also the purpose of assessment, how do you bring these kids up to par to prepare for that?
So a few things. Number one, I try to gauge what they can and can't do. My expectation is to not meet you, but to pull you to where I need you to go. My expectation is high. It's not that I'm not going to meet you where you need to be. It's just the fact that I'm going to pull you up to where my expectation is. So they have to have in their mindset. It's mindset first. Am I able to do this? Yes, you are. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to gauge whether or not you know how to read.
Right.
You might be a
Okay.
great mathematician, but if you do a real world problem and they give you an entire paragraph or two to decipher, and they get it wrong, what do you say? What's their measurement? Oh, well, they don't know math. No, that's not the case. Sometimes they have trouble reading. Sometimes, how we said earlier, where the young lady didn't know the difference between ascending and descending. It's those barriers that exist in in an assessment. I had a student where she understood and know how to do scientific notation, but she didn't know the definition of scientific notation.
That's a major difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference, but that type of literacy needs to be addressed. So that's what we address. We address the literacy of the content. How in my classroom, and I encourage instructors to do this. I encourage teachers to do this in the classroom. eh, the first month and a half, we all took the test together so I could show them how to strategize in testing. I can't explain. Yeah, you have to. We have to understand these are children. These are kids. So you're telling me a kindergartner, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, only 6, 7 years, 8 years of experience in education and public education or any type of traditional educational system. They should master testing.
No, that's a bit extreme.
That's a bit extreme. I mean, we've been in our careers for 10, 20 plus years, and we still haven't fully mastered everything. But we expect these kids to master testing. Okay, I got it. No, I got it. I see the implications. So when I go into my classroom, we're going to take a test together for the first month or two. We're taking it together. I'm showing you how to uh, dissect information. We're doing testing strategies, all of that. So we're making sure that assessment literacy is the forefront of the classroom and not just getting a good grade.
Okay. And so, walk us through your process for building a curriculum from scratch. Where do you start, and how do you ensure it actually serves the students in the room?
That's the first question. What are our social forces? Who are we making this curriculum for? Now, there's different types of instructional strategies and different types of curriculum developments. Like, let's say if you want to do something project based, some PBLs, which is project based learning, or you want to do some makerspace, which is another form of kind of project based learning. It's a little different, but it's kind of the same. Well, these kids in the low income communities can't go to a skate park and measure the diameter of a skateboard and the triangular whatever it is in these different spaces. So who are we creating this curriculum for? Come on, let's all everybody, let's go ahead and take our time and be authentic and straightforward about this. Who are we creating this curriculum for? So we have to look at the dynamic of the curriculum. Can this curriculum reach classroom to classroom regardless of the social economics? Can we put this in a low income versus a suburban area? can we place these curriculums in different spaces? So it has to have some type of universal design of learning. It has to be modality. It has to make sure that it's multiple means of representation. If I can't do the PBL, how can I make a PBL inside of the classroom? Different other ways. Rich task. What are we doing to make sure the students are thinking outside of multiple choice questions? We have to have rich tasks. How can we bring their reality into the classroom? What type of reflective practice are we using? Of course, it has to align to the standards, or the state is not going to allow any school to adopt it. Really, a district, that's bare minimum. They have to align to the standard. What are we doing to make sure that if it goes into any classroom, that it can be applicable and students can actually learn from the curriculum? So the first thing I ask after social forces, how much academic vocabulary are we really playing into this curriculum? Supplementary curriculum, the supplementary portion of the curriculum. How much academic vocabulary is being presented there? How much academic vocabulary is being emphasized? Because these kids cannot go into these books if they don't know what the books are talking about. I argue this all the time. Like, you cannot put this in front of the student if the student doesn't understand the language of it. You know, that's like asking us. We're very intelligent individuals. From my perspective, we are both very, very intelligent. But if you tell us to go split that person open and remove something out of their lungs or whatever, we're not going to do very well.
No, I would be looking like a fool if you want to do it like
You
that.
need a what? When you need a what? What do you need? You need to be to put where? What? What are you talking about? So it's ideal that these students can come into these classrooms and access this curriculum, and this curriculum is an entire different language to what they go home to. Is It's inequitable. That's when we talk about equity. But it's not enough. It's not only equity; it's justice too. You have to put justice in your curriculum. These students need to know that they're being represented. It has to be culturally responsive.
Right. I just wish that hopefully, when that light comes on and that blockage in the minds of those that are controlling these things, that finally there's no need to be afraid, but just let this system be what it's supposed to be, because what they are teaching on, I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, but
Go
I
ahead.
mean, you correct me if you need to be, but I mean, this structure that's being used right now it started out as good after when Reconstruction had started, when this country was built on this foundation of all of these black leaders that control this country, all of this foundation that is built on for today. They did that. It was for the good. They took all of that and put it into bizarro world and made it opposite. It's been opposite now for what's that, about 300-400 years now? And so, with this being said, how much more lying and deception can you put into these things when you know that nobody's really getting it, which is why so many people now are just saying, forget about education.
Well, everyone wants to be the star player. I'll say that. And when you have a room of people that everyone wants to be the star player, and it's only backed by credentials and not experience, how are you going to develop real world, impactful, culturally responsive tools if you're not forecasting or going into those communities to understand what you're writing it for? How
Right.
you write it. The decision makers are are oftentimes individuals that never taught in the classroom.
Yeah.
There is an element of business that goes into education. There's an element of business that goes into education. But the larger space is the student. And once we remove the student from the pursuit of building education as a whole,
Hmm.
it starts to crumble.
Yes.
The center of mass is gone.
Right.
What I would like to see is more policy change.
Hmm.
What I would like to see is the dynamic of school changing. Everything is going hybrid, everything is going remote.
Hmm.
Why isn't school following the same trajectory? If this was 15 years, I would have to be on that couch over there, sitting down next to you. Just 15,
Hmm.
10 years ago.
Hmm.
Everything is changing. We have to let education change as well because education is just one big research. It's just one big experiment. An
Yeah.
idea. It's not something that everyone said, this is what we know that's going to happen. This is an ideal and a theory that has been working really, really well. And in its first time in history, it's asking to change the profession of it.
Mhm.
We're
I'm gonna
starting to.
tell you,
Hmm.
I ain't gonna hurt their feelings. I ain't gonna hurt their feelings because what you saying is so true. But you know, there's a lot that goes into that because what you speak is what people should actually be listening to. There's a lot that goes into that.
It does. It does. And when you go into a space where you know the students are struggling and their only support is after school tutoring from 4 to 5, but they don't have a ride home.
Hmm.
Now
You
everywhere
said
else, now everywhere else, we have all these tutoring centers, these centers of engagement, the center of learning, the Kumans, the mathasiums. They have all of these things. Where are like where are they in low income areas?
exactly.
Can't say that too loud because they're gonna say, "Hey, well, what you mean? Like it's right?" No, no, that's 10 miles away, man. My mom thought 10 miles was a grip back in the day with that little Buick. It was a grip. So we have to make sure that they like we understand that academic or being able to have access to that support is there. It has to change. After school tutoring is not. I want to go into a space where it's air conditioner, different people, and professionals everywhere, and it's a room full of my peers, and we're writing and we're doing all of this thing. Why only in the low income community tutoring means that you're dumb?
Let's see. Ooh, that's one of those things again. That's something we'll
Why is
have
that
to have that
stereotype?
discussion
Why is it stereotype?
because mm, I haven't
It's
defined this
low.
out.
I've been in education for almost 20 years. Why only in the low income communities tutoring is seen as that you're dumb? Anywhere else, it's like, oh man, this is for me to get better. This is for me to excel. This is for me to, I need this. Let me go here. Let me go here. In the low income community, tutoring saying it's a stigma. Why is that stigma there? Who created that stigma? I don't know personally, but I promise you, if I read enough, I'll find out. But who
Mhm.
created the stigma? We have to
Right.
shift that. This is where education needs to change. You only put kids in there when they're struggling versus putting kids in tutoring ever since kindergarten. So when they grow up, they know this is what this is.
Exactly.
Tutoring doesn't mean that you need like that you're struggling. Tutoring means that I need better understanding of the concept, whatever that discipline is. So why isn't it used ever since kindergarten? Why is only the only time when the low income kids are in tutoring is because they on the verge of failing a course, failing the
Mhm.
class. Why is that?
Exactly.
Why didn't I put into tutoring ever since they're kindergartners? Hey, this is extended learning. If you do that for
Yep.
kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth, by the time they get into middle school and high school, they'll say this is extended learning. That's why so many low income students, when they come from different first generation students, all of those students that don't really have a great educational background in the home, that's when they go to college and they flunk out. They fail their courses because they don't know how to go get extended learning and tutoring. They feel like they're dumb. They feel like they don't belong because
Exactly.
somewhere they told them, somebody told a student or created an environment that says if you need help, then you should, like, you don't know it, you shouldn't be there, you get displaced.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't know. I could go
that's
on
a
a rant all
crazy.
day, Mr. King, but I could go on a rant all day. But yeah, but honestly, that's what it saddens me. It saddens me. That's the perspective.
So, can you tell us how do you incorporate data informed instruction into your curriculum and assessment work without reducing students to numbers or spreadsheets on a spreadsheet?
Oh, absolutely. So it depends on what type of data you're looking at. So if you're looking at performance data, how well a student performs, it can you can easily go into a space where you're just treating them like numbers. But when you start looking at background, educational background from parents, home life, you you do much more metadata on a student and you get the person and not just the student. It's easier to start incorporating different aspects not only into your instruction but into your curriculum as well. When I was in a classroom, I had a lot of black and brown students, and a lot of my brown students worked after school. Why am I giving them a large amounts of homework? Why am I creating curriculum with large amounts of homework if we know that these students do not have the academic support? Do we have built-in intervention? Do we have built-in tutoring? Do we have built-in support in this curriculum or in these classrooms or in this instruction? These are some of the things that I look at, especially when I go into classrooms and they ask me to evaluate, or if I go into spaces where they're asking me what aspects of curriculum need to be integrated. It needs to be support within the class. That's how you're going to get those students becoming better. Teacher tables, um, um, metacognitive reflective practices like reciprocal teaching strategies. I created a framework called Prepare, where it teaches the student structured academic reasoning. So things like that really gauges on whether or not the student can learn and how they can improve on their learning as well.
Equity and assessment is a topic you care deeply about.
Mhm.
What does inequitable assessment look like in practice, and how do we fix it?
Well, what I was alluding to earlier when we discussed about the amount of assessment questions on the test, we're talking about heavily academic, language driven assessments. Are you measuring whether or not they know how to read on a 10th grade level, or are you measuring whether or not they really understand the content? Now, reading level is important, but how are we getting them there? What is the instructional pathway that those students are on inside of your classroom in order to ensure that they have equal access to that assessment? So we have different types. We have English learners. We have students with IEPs, 504s. What are we doing to create an environment to prepare them to take an assessment? Are we just going up there to teach? So these are some of the equitable variables that I discuss with teachers. When you're assessing students, are you assessing them purely on the content that you taught this week? And do you do that for every week until the test? If so, How are they going to retain the information you taught 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? So it's not equitable. Before they get to the end of the year exam, they should have taken the end of year exam already.
Exactly.
It's not going to be one subject or one topic or one standard on that end of the year assessment. So therefore, you need to make it equitable enough to where they are experiencing different standards each week in what you've previously taught. So it's a lot goes into making assessment equitable. But one thing you want to do prior to the end of the year assessment is differentiate your test. You have your high level learners and you have learners that have instructional priorities. There's no reason why, in the beginning, those students that are taking those high order assessments are the same exams where the students having instructional priorities. Students that need additional help. Why are they taking the same exam? That's not equitable. So those are some of the things that I feel that comes with making assessment equitable. Differentiation and making sure that they're prepared for the assessment and the modality of the assessments.
So, how should institutions balance standardized assessment requirements with the need for more authentic, culturally responsive evaluation methods?
We shouldn't overtest these students. There should be clear cut boundaries and scores and pathways. Over assessing students does not make them better assessment takers. So when you take your beginning of the year assessment, they automatically go through a certain pathway. They have a cut score, a classification, a measurement. If you fall into this, we know that we have to do this pathway and we have to pursue it. That's what needs to happen. They need to have pathways depending on their scores and assess less and give more support, because over assessing doesn't mean you're going to become a better test taker.
What is the most common curriculum design mistake you see institutions making, and what does the correction look like?
Mm. The number one is making it reasonable, whether it's mathematical reasonable, mathematic reasonable, or ELA reasonable, social studies reasonable. They overcomplicate curriculum. They make curriculum these sophisticated bodies of standards versus simplifying and scaffolding. It's not teacher friendly. It's not student friendly. We have to make curriculum that makes sense in the classroom for all stakeholders, even parents.
Yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit about HBCUs and underserved communities. What does an HBCU represent to you, not just academically, but culturally and spiritually?
Well, like I said, I went to a PWI, and but the first campus I ever stepped on was a HBCU, um, and it opened my eyes to how many different types of Black people are out there.
Ooh, just look at this real spirit.
Yeah, like it's so different and it's unique and it's fun because you have people from different heritages, different spaces of the world, and it's something that you must experience, whether you attend or whether you associate yourself or whether you are around it. It's something that you must really bring in and take in as a human being, especially as a Black person. One thing I really love about the pursuit of just making HBCUs um, a center for higher learning and a safe space is that these are the colleges that was giving us opportunities when no one else could.
Um, HBCUs are often expected to deliver excellence with a fraction of the resources available to PWIs.
Mhm.
How have you seen faculty and administrators navigate that gap with grace and ingenuity?
Excellent teachers, excellent instructors, excellent professors. The amount of Because when you talk about pedagogy, you're talking about the art of teaching, the science of teaching, and the profession of teaching. When you talk about pedagogically sound, you're talking about those professors at HBCUs because they could acquire, they need and can acquire more resources, and it will benefit them, but they don't need it, and because that's how great of a teacher or instructor they are. So they performance is world class to a lot of other professors I've come into contact with.
Um, what are the unique joys of working in an HBCU environment that you don't experience anywhere else?
Um, the cultural sensitivity, and the the communication. I can give you a look, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to say a word. And
Okay, that's all it is.
it's all there. So it gives you a safe space to just honestly to just let down your hair. And when you're in those spaces where you have a sense of belonging, you perform better a lot of times. It's not much pressure. Um, there's high expectation, but the pressure is different. You know, you're around people that, in a lot of cases, want to see you do well.
Um, when you work with first generation college students, what do you find they most need academically, emotionally, structurally that institutions often fail to provide?
Spaces where they can fail.
Mm.
A lot of first generation college students believe that they have to do everything right. They have to get everything 100%. They cannot fail anything. So if you give them a space where they can fail and learn from their failures, then they'll do much better than what's currently out there now. Not being able to fail or feeling like you can't fail, it's too much pressure on an 18-year-old that just came from high school with standard blocks. Um, there's and they should all, honestly, I think all of them should go in with a mentor. If you're a first generation college student, you should go in there. You should be assigned a mentor, and I'm not talking about a peer mentor. I'm talking about somebody that is the graduate dean, somebody that's the vice chancellor. I mean, these are the people that I pursued. I met Dr. Branch is a graduate dean.
Oh,
Dr. Lundy,
wow.
a vice chancellor. You know, these are the people that I was around. So it wasn't, and I'm not saying peer mentorship is ineffective. I'm saying being around spaces and you see those people in those positions, and these are the people that you have direct contact with, it changes the accountability. You know, um, if I had a peer mentor and I seen you at a party Friday and you in there with me, what, what are we doing here together? you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? No, I'm a realist. I'm a realist. You know, what are you partying to the same songs I'm partying to? You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Look, you out here getting it in.
Yeah.
How do you advocate for underserved communities within systems that were not originally built with the communities in mind?
Do I advocate?
Yeah, I said, how do you advocate
Mhm,
for underserved communities within systems that were not originally built with those communities in mind?
mhm. My first avocation is making sure that I stay true to myself when whatever space I go into. Representation matters. I do not want to change myself for no one because I've reached a certain space in my career. The second, if you keep bringing it up enough, they'll listen. So like I said, I just left a symposium where we're talking about majority of those students that were going to redevelopment or developmental classes going into college, bringing up the fact that a lot of those students, if they just go, they skip the developmental courses and go straight into um, core courses, that they'll be more successful. So bringing it up during policy change meetings, bringing it up and writing position papers on it, bringing it up and writing books on it, making sure that you're going into those communities and volunteering and making sure that you're a part of those organizations that have a direct connection to those people, being a mentor yourself. Those are some of the ways that I advocate for those spaces.
Final question for you.
Mhm.
What is your message to the policymakers, donors, and decision makers who hold power over the future of HBCUs and the students they serve?
Go visit, go visit, go visit frequently. I'm not telling you to go visit and go to the top office. Go visit on the grounds. Go visit in the classrooms. Go visit those professors. Go visit those students. Talk to those students. You can't get real time data from bodies of populations that don't experience what you're trying to change.
Yeah, that's kind of like we have a lot of that now, so we definitely don't want that to continue.
Absolutely. I remember my mom loves cooking, and she'll ask us what we want. She asked my brother, what y'all want to eat. Um, and I remember one time he said lasagna. I didn't say that. Y'all didn't ask me. Y'all didn't. Hold up. Y'all go too fast. Y'all making these changes. Y'all making these decisions. Y'all don't have my opinion yet. So I think it's really important to go get those opinions of those people that are actually experiencing the culture, the community, or the surrounding areas. There should be so much more money going into those student living conditions. There should be so much more money going into those environments or to the academics. There should be so much money going into safety. Nobody talks about the safety of those campuses or the lack thereof. It needs to be more. We can do more. We can do more.
So, in closing, what is the words of wisdom and encouragement you'd like to leave for our audience? Tell them how they can connect with you via social media, your website, all of those good things that you'd like for them to know.
Absolutely. Everyone, if you want to reach me, Doc Spearman underscore uh, on Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, Shaquille Spearman, LinkedIn, Shaquille Spearman. Reach out to me, DM me, and we can get to work. If you need any type of consulting, or if you want me to come in and just do an evaluation and talk about the curriculum coherence or assessment coherence, I'm always open. If you want me to come speak, I'll come speak, and we can kind of discuss and talk about that as well. DocSpearman.org. You can go see my website and some of the free materials that I have and some of the upcoming publications and also some of the position papers that I've already written. And like I said, thank you so much for having me on this platform. Um, and please, all viewers, if you need anything, if you just need consulting, especially in the K-12 space, if you need free consulting and you want me to come and put fire to the feet of those schools about equity, I will, because I don't know them, they don't know me, so we can. I'm ready to fight for anyone and everybody, especially in those communities where they need voices.
So, in closing, I'm getting ready to close. When I do
Mhm.
close the show, if you could stick around for a few minutes, I would definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Um, for those of you that are watching and have watched us throughout the entirety of the show, I appreciate your support again. For those of you that are watching, especially on any of our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, I ask if you would please support us by subscribing and enabling all notifications, where you get all shows live, and you're also able to go back and watch any and all of our previous recorded shows with all the great superstars that have been here, that's left words of wisdom for each and every last one of you to help in building communities, but also unifying. So, in closing, I have this monologue that I like to close with. You know, there are conversations that inform you, and then there are conversations that transform you. Tonight was the latter. Dr. Shaquille Spearman sat with us tonight and did what only truly great ones can do. He made the complex feel accessible, the academic feel human, and the personal feel universal. I want to call out a few moments that I know are going to stay with me, and I believe they'll stay with you too. First, his reminder that metacognition is liberation. Teaching students to think about their own thinking is not a strategy, it is an act of radical empowerment. When we give our students the tools to monitor their own learning, we're telling them your mind is capable, your process matters, and you have the power to adjust your own course. That is education in its highest form. Second, his reverence for HBCUs. He did not romanticize the challenges. He named them clearly and then pivoted to the beauty, the culture, the community, the irreplaceable sense of belonging that HBCU environments offer students who have too often been made to feel like outsiders everywhere else. That hit different tonight. Third, the way he spoke about equity in assessment. Assessment should reveal what a student knows, not punish them for the resources they didn't have access to. That sentence alone should be framed in every faculty meeting room in this country. And fourth, his vision for the next generation. He is not building for himself. Every degree, every certification, every conference stage, every faculty coaching session, it is all in service of the student who comes next. That is the mark of a true educator. To our AMIBW family listening tonight, this is exactly why we do this show, because these conversations don't just fill an hour, they feel a need. The need to see Black excellence reflected back at us. They need to know that our educators are warriors, our scholars are builders, and our community's future is in extraordinary hands. So share this episode, send it to a teacher you know, send it to a student who needs to hear it. Post it, tag it, talk about it at the dinner table. These are the voices that deserve amplification, and you are the reason why they get heard. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King. This has been America in Black and White, Season 4, Episode 117. We illuminate, we amplify, and we never, ever stop changing the narrative. Good night, stay excellent, and keep showing up. And join us again tomorrow night for another excellent